What if one of the oldest truths in mathematics, something so simple a child can understand it, still can't be proven by the greatest minds in history? Here's the thing. Every even number greater than 2 can be expressed as the sum of 2 primes for equals to plus 2. 6 equals 3 plus 3. 8 equals 3 plus 5. 16 equals 3 plus 13. 1,503 plus 499,497. Both prime. We've checked this for every even number up to 4 followed by 18 zeros. That's more calculations than there are atoms in the observable universe. And yet, we still can't prove it's always true. This is the Goldbach conjecture, proposed in 1742, and it reveals something disturbing about human knowledge. We live our entire lives convinced that what feels obvious must be true. But what if our most fundamental beliefs about success, relationships, meaning, even reality itself, are just comfortable assumptions we've never actually proven? If you value ideas that challenge your comfort zone, subscribe to this channel. We ask questions most people avoid, and that's exactly why it matters. Because the most dangerous prison is the one we don't know we're in. Leonhard Euler, the man who solved more mathematical problems than anyone in history, spent decades trying to prove Goldbach's conjecture. Friedrich Hardy, who revolutionized number theory and mentored the legendary Srinivasa Ramanujan, called it probably the most difficult problem in mathematics. He never came close to solving it. Ramanujan himself, the man who could see mathematical truths in dreams, who discovered formulas that took mathematicians decades to understand, even he couldn't crack it. And Chen Jingren, perhaps the closest anyone has come to a proof, spent 30 years of his life on it. He proved that every sufficiently large even number can be expressed as the sum of a prime, and a number that's either prime or the product of two primes. He got tantalizingly close. But close isn't proof. Now, here's what should terrify you. If minds like these can spend lifetimes convinced they're on the right track, only to fail at proving something that seems obvious. What makes you think you're immune to being spectacularly wrong? Consider this. Some of the most brilliant PhD holders believe the Earth is flat. Nobel Prize winners in physics have fallen for perpetual motion machines. Economists with Harvard degrees predicted the 2008 financial crisis would never happen, right up until it did. Intelligence doesn't protect you from delusion. In fact, it often makes it worse. The smarter you are, the better you become at rationalizing beliefs that feel true, but aren't proven. You build more sophisticated mental prisons with thicker walls and more comfortable cells. The Goldbach conjecture isn't just a mathematical curiosity. It's a mirror showing us how easily we confuse the familiar with the factual, the repeated with the real, the believed with the true. Beijing, 1954. Air raid sirens pierce the night as American bombers target the Chinese capital during the Korean War, while others flee to shelters. A young mathematics student named Chen Jingren remains hunched over his desk, scribbling equations. By candlelight, the building shakes, plaster falls. Chen doesn't move. His professor, Hua Luoging, himself a mathematical genius who'd overcome poverty and disability to become China's most celebrated mathematician, found Chen there morning after morning. Jingren, he would say, "You'll get yourself killed for a math problem." Chen would look up with eyes that burned with something beyond mere ambition. "Professor Hua," he'd reply, "you told us that number theory is the queen of mathematics, and that Goldbach's conjecture is the pearl in the crown. How can I sleep when the pearl is still lost?" This wasn't hyperbole. This was a young man who understood that some truths are worth dying for, not because they're useful, but because they're true. In a world being torn apart by ideologies that claim to possess absolute truth, Chen chose to pursue a different kind of certainty, the kind that could only be achieved through rigorous proof. But Chen's story isn't just about mathematical obsession. It's about what happens when the pursuit of truth collides with a world that punishes thinking. Because Chen Jingren didn't just have to battle one of mathematics' most stubborn problems. He had to survive the Cultural Revolution. Born into poverty in Fujian province, Chen showed early brilliance, but was denied opportunities due to his family's class background. His path to mathematics was paved with humiliation, rejection, and near starvation. Yet every setback only intensified his focus on the conjecture that would consume his life. The pearl and the crown, those words from his teacher became both his inspiration and his curse. Because when you dedicate your existence to capturing something that might be fundamentally uncapturable, you're not just risking failure, you're risking your sanity, your relationships, your very sense of self. Let's pause and really understand what we're dealing with here. The Goldbach conjecture states that every even integer greater than 2 can be expressed as the sum of two primes. It's been verified for numbers up to 4 times key c. That's checking 18 quintillion cases without finding a single exception dot in any other field. This would be considered proof beyond reasonable doubt. If you tested a medicine on 18 quintillion patients, and it worked every time, no one would question its effectiveness. If you dropped a ball 18 quintillion times and it fell every time, no one would doubt gravity. But mathematics demands something different, logical certainty. Not just that something appears to be true, but that it must be true. Mathematical proof doesn't just show that something happens. It explains why it cannot possibly be otherwise. This is where most people's understanding of truth gets dangerously fuzzy. We live in a world of statistical truth, emotional truth, social truth. We believe things because they feel right, because everyone else believes them, because they've worked so far. But mathematical truth is different. It's binary, absolute, unforgiving. Karl Popper, the philosopher of science, argued that the mark of genuine knowledge is falsifiability, the ability to prove something wrong. But mathematical truth goes further. It's not just falsifiable, it's provable. You don't just eliminate doubt, you eliminate the possibility of doubt. This creates a disturbing question. If we can't even prove something as simple as the Goldbach conjecture, what does that say about the complex beliefs we use to navigate our lives? Think about your deepest convictions, your political beliefs, your understanding of success, your assumptions about human nature, your beliefs about love, meaning, purpose. How many of these have you actually proven? How many are just sophisticated versions of its work so far? Or everyone I respect believes it? Cognitive psychologists have identified dozens of biases that make us mistake correlation for causation, anecdote for evidence, consensus for truth. We see patterns where none exist. We remember hits and forget misses. We seek information that confirms what we already believe and ignore information that challenges it. The Goldbach conjecture forces us to confront an uncomfortable reality. The gap between what feels true and what is provably true is vast. And most of us spend our entire lives in that gap, mistaking our comfortable assumptions for solid ground. If this is already making you rethink something you took for granted, drop a like and share this video with someone who's not afraid to think. Because what we're about to explore next will challenge not just your mathematical assumptions, but your assumptions about knowledge, truth, and the very nature of belief itself. And here's the thing. Discomfort is the price of intellectual growth. If you're not occasionally uncomfortable with your own beliefs, you're not learning. You're just confirming what you already thought you knew. China descends into madness. Mao Zedong launches the Cultural Revolution, declaring war on old ideas, old culture, old customs, old habits. Universities close, libraries burn, intellectuals are dragged from their homes and paraded through streets. Wearing dunce caps, Chen Jingren, now working at the Institute of Mathematics in Beijing, watches his world collapse. Colleagues disappear overnight. Research is declared bourgeois and counter-revolutionary. The pursuit of abstract truth, the very thing that had given Chen's life meaning, becomes a crime punishable by death. Red Guards storm the Institute. They find Chen's notebooks filled with incomprehensible equations. What is this? They demand. Explain how this serves the people. How do you explain number theory to revolutionaries who've declared war on thinking? How do you justify the pursuit of abstract truth to people who believe truth is whatever serves their cause? Chen is subjected to struggle sessions, public humiliations, where he's forced to confess his crimes against the people. He's made to wear a sign, counter-revolutionary intellectual. Students he once taught now spit on him, scream at him, beat him with sticks. But here's what's remarkable: even under torture, even facing death, Cheng continues working on the Goldbach conjecture in secret. He hides equations in the margins of Mao's little red book. He develops proofs in his head while being beaten. The pearl in the crown becomes his anchor to sanity in a world gone mad. This isn't just historical tragedy. It's a blueprint for how societies destroy themselves by punishing thought. When ideology becomes more important than truth, when consensus becomes more valuable than evidence, when asking questions becomes treason, civilizations crumble. Look around you today. How many modern institutions discourage genuine questioning? How many online platforms reward conformity over curiosity? How many people have lost jobs, friends, or opportunities for asking the wrong questions or reaching the wrong conclusions? We live in an age where algorithms reward certainty over nuance, where social media amplifies the loudest voices rather than the most thoughtful ones, where admitting uncertainty is seen as weakness rather than wisdom. The tools are different, but the pattern is the same. Societies that punish thinking eventually stop thinking altogether. And when they stop thinking, they stop being able to distinguish between what's true and what's convenient. Chen Jingren's persecution wasn't just about mathematics. It was about the fundamental human right to pursue truth wherever it leads, even when it leads to uncomfortable places, even when it threatens those in power, even when it reveals that our most cherished beliefs might be wrong. So how do you live in a world where even the simplest truths can't be proven? How do you make decisions when certainty is impossible and doubt is everywhere? The answer isn't to give up on truth. It's to change your relationship with uncertainty. First, embrace intellectual humility. This doesn't mean being wishy-washy or refusing to take positions. It means holding your beliefs lightly enough that evidence can change them. Chen Jingren spent decades believing he was close to proving Goldbach's conjecture. When his approaches failed, he didn't cling to them out of pride. He tried new methods, explored different paths, remained open to the possibility that his intuitions were wrong. Second, distinguish between what you know and what you believe. You know that 2 + 2 = 4. This can be rigorously proven. You believe that hard work leads to success. This is a useful assumption, but it's not mathematically certain. Stop treating beliefs as if they were knowledge, and you'll make better decisions. Third, cultivate curiosity over certainty. The most dangerous people aren't those who are wrong. They're those who are certain they're right. When you meet someone who claims to have all the answers, run. When you find yourself claiming to have all the answers, pause and ask, what am I not seeing? Fourth, practice the art of changing your mind. Make it a habit to actively seek out information that challenges your views. Subscribe to sources that disagree with you. Engage with people who see the world differently, not to be contrarian, but to stress test your beliefs. Fifth, get comfortable with I don't know. These might be the 3 most powerful words in any language. They open doors to learning. They prevent you from making decisions based on false confidence. They keep you humble in the face of complexity. Chen Jingren never proved the Goldbach conjecture, but his pursuit of it led to profound advances in number theory. His failure contributed more to human knowledge than most people's successes, because the pursuit of truth, even when it remains elusive, transforms both the pursuer and the world. Individual intellectual humility isn't enough. We need to build systems that reward uncertainty, fund questions, and protect the right to be wrong. Consider how we educate our children. Most schools reward students for giving the right answer, not for asking better questions. Students learn to regurgitate information rather than evaluate it. They're taught what to think, not how to think. Is it any wonder we produce adults who mistake confidence for competence? What if we designed educational systems that celebrated intellectual courage, that rewarded students for saying, I don't know, but here's how I would find out, that taught the history of human error alongside the history of human achievement? Consider how we fund scientific research. Most grants go to projects that promise practical applications, immediate results, measurable outcomes. But the most profound discoveries often come from pure research. Investigations driven by curiosity rather than utility. The internet emerged from research into packet switching. GPS came from Einstein's theories about relativity. The Goldbach conjecture might seem useless, but the mathematical techniques developed to approach it have revolutionized computer science and cryptography. What if we dedicated a percentage of research funding to questions that might never be answered, to problems that seem useless but might transform our understanding of reality? Consider how we structure public discourse. Social media algorithms reward engagement over accuracy, intensity over nuance, speed over thoughtfulness. Politicians are punished for changing their minds in response to new evidence. Journalists are rewarded for confirmation rather than investigation. What if we built platforms that rewarded intellectual honesty, that elevated people who admitted uncertainty, that made it easier to have nuanced conversations about complex topics? The societies that thrive in the long run aren't those with the most confident leaders or the most certain ideologies. They're the societies that remain curious, that fund questions even when the answers aren't immediately profitable, that protect the right to think dangerous thoughts and speak uncomfortable truths. Chen Jingren's China punished him for pursuing abstract truth, but that same China later recognized that its greatest asset wasn't conformity. It was the thinking that survives conformity. Today, Chinese mathematicians are among the world's most respected, and their work on problems like the Goldbach conjecture is funded and celebrated. The lesson isn't that all questions deserve equal treatment. It's that societies that stop asking questions stop progressing, and societies that punish questioners eventually find themselves with nothing worth questioning. Chen Jingren died in 1996, his life's work unfinished. The Goldbach conjecture remains unproven. The pearl in the crown still lies beyond our grasp. Maybe it always will. Maybe there are truths that will forever remain tantalizingly out of reach. Maybe the universe is structured in such a way that some questions can't be answered, some problems can't be solved, some pearls can't be captured. And maybe that's okay. Maybe the value isn't in the answer, but in the pursuit. Maybe the truth we seek isn't the destination, but the journey. Maybe the real transformation happens not when we solve the problem, but when we allow the problem to solve us, to reshape us, to humble us, to remind us of how little we really know about the vast mystery we inhabit. But here's what I want you to consider. If Chen Jingren could spend 30 years pursuing a truth he might never capture, if he could maintain his curiosity in the face of persecution, if he could choose questions over answers even when answers would have been safer, what belief are you still holding onto? Not because it's proven, but because it would hurt too much to let go. What assumption about yourself, your relationships, your purpose, your limitations, what assumption have you never seriously questioned? Because questioning it would mean admitting you might have been living a lie. What's your Goldbach conjecture? What's the problem you're afraid to admit you can't solve? What's the question you're afraid to ask because you might not like the answer? Drop it in the comments. Share it with this community of people who understand that the most dangerous truths are the ones we never question. And if this video stirred something in you, if it made you uncomfortable, if it challenged something you thought you knew, if it reminded you that the pursuit of truth is worth more than the comfort of certainty, share it. Share it with someone who's not afraid to think. Share it with someone who might need to hear that it's okay not to have all the answers. Share it with someone who might be living in a prison of unexamined assumptions. Because maybe the real proof we need isn't mathematical. Maybe it's the proof that human beings can still choose curiosity over certainty, questions over answers, truth over comfort. Maybe that's the only proof that really matters. The pearl in the crown might remain forever out of reach, but in reaching for it, we become something more than we were. We become the kind of people who dare to ask questions we can't answer. And in a world full of false certainties, that might be the most revolutionary act of all.